The stars shined bright against the dark void as the U.S. horizon glided through space. Captain John Miller stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. The ship had been traveling for 3 weeks now, headed toward the coordinates where they would meet the Valdari for the first time. "Captain, we're approaching the meeting point," said Lisa Daniels, his first officer. Her voice was calm, but John could hear the excitement underneath. "All stations, status report," John ordered. One by one, the crew confirmed their readiness. The U.S. Horizon was humanity's finest diplomatic vessel, built not just for peace missions, but able to defend itself if needed. Humans had been exploring space for nearly a century now, but this was special. Their first contact with the Valdari, a species that was part of something called the Galactic Council. "Communications are ready, Captain," said Kate Morgan from her station. "Translation software is online." John nodded. "Take us in, steady approach. Let's not give our new friends any reason to worry." The main screen showed a ship waiting for them. It looked like nothing humans had built before, all smooth curves and shimmering surfaces that seemed to change color as they watched. "They're hailing us, sir," Kate said. On screen, the face that appeared wasn't what any of them expected. The alien looked almost human, with subtle differences: skin with a slight purple tone, larger eyes, and no visible ears. "Greetings, vessel from Earth. I am Ambassador Keith Quinn." The alien had clearly taken a human name for this meeting. "Welcome to Galactic Council Space." John stepped forward. "Ambassador Quinn, I'm Captain John Miller of the U.S. Horizon, representing Earth and the United Human Worlds. We're honored to meet you." The conversation continued smoothly until John mentioned they were from Earth. The ambassador's expression changed instantly. "Earth? Your species evolved on Earth?" Quinn's voice trembled slightly. John frowned. "Yes. Is there a problem?" The alien ambassador turned to speak with someone off-screen, his voice urgent but too quiet for the translation software to pick up. Lisa leaned closer to John. "Something's wrong," she whispered. When Quinn turned back, he seemed composed but more formal than before. "Captain Miller, our records show Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. There must be some mistake." "Death world? I don't understand," John replied. "Planets are classified by their habitability and environmental dangers. Most Council species evolved on Class 3 to 5 worlds with stable climates, minimal predators, and few natural disasters." Quinn paused. "Class 12 worlds are considered extremely hostile, high gravity, dangerous predators, extreme weather patterns, and deadly microorganisms." The bridge crew exchanged glances. What Quinn was describing sounded like normal life on Earth. "Ambassador," John said carefully, "that is indeed our home. We call it a garden world." The silence that followed was heavy. Quinn seemed to be processing this information with growing concern. "If Earth is what humans consider a garden world, I fear to ask what you would consider hostile," Quinn finally said. Paul Carter, the science officer, spoke up. "Sir, may I?" When John nodded, Paul addressed the ambassador. "Our records show we evolved alongside over 8,000 species of predators. Our planet experiences over 500,000 earthquakes annually, has 1,500 active volcanoes, and weather systems that include hurricanes, tornadoes, and temperatures ranging from -88 to 58 degrees Celsius." Quinn's eyes widened. "And yet you survived. You thrived." "It's just home to us," John said simply. "Captain Miller," Quinn said, his voice now filled with a mixture of fear and respect, "the Galactic Council would like to extend an invitation for a delegation of humans to visit our headquarters. I believe there is much we can learn from each other." As the communication ended, the bridge was quiet. "Well," John said with a small smile, "it seems being from a death world makes us more interesting than we thought." Lisa laughed. "I can't wait to see their faces when they learn about what we do for fun." The U.S. Horizon adjusted its course, heading toward a new future where humans would discover that what made Earth deadly had also made humanity unique among the stars. The Galactic Council headquarters took John's breath away. The massive space station hung in orbit around a blue-green gas giant, its rings glittering with countless lights. The human delegation had arrived after a week of travel alongside Ambassador Quinn's ship. "It's beautiful," Lisa said as they stepped off the shuttle. 6 humans had come: Captain Miller, Lisa Daniels, Paul Carter, Kate Morgan, Frank Martins, and Sam Foster. Quinn met them at the dock. "Welcome to Unity Station. Please follow me." The halls were filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some looked almost human, others were completely different: floating jellyfish-like creatures, tall insectoid beings, and small furry aliens that reminded Paul of Earth cats. "They're all staring at us," Frank whispered, his hand instinctively near his sidearm. "We're probably the first humans they've ever seen," Kate replied. "And apparently, we're from a scary planet." Quinn led them to a large circular room where a dozen alien representatives sat in curved seats. The chamber fell silent as the humans entered. "Esteemed council members," Quinn announced, "I present the delegation from Earth." An alien with pale blue skin and 4 arms stood. "Welcome, humans. I am Council Leader Mira. We are curious about your species." John stepped forward. "We thank you for your hospitality. We're eager to learn about the Galactic Council and share knowledge about Earth." "Yes, Earth," another council member said, his voice tinged with worry. "A Class 12 death world. How do you survive such conditions?" Paul set up a display showing Earth. "Our planet has diverse ecosystems. We have oceans, deserts, forests, Arctic regions, and mountains. The gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared." The aliens murmured among themselves. One asked, "And the predators?" "Our records indicate thousands of species that could kill sentient life." Sam laughed. "Well, yes, but most stay away from people. We learn to avoid the dangerous ones." "And your recreational activities?" asked a tall, thin alien. Kate pulled up images of human sports. "These are some things we do for fun: swimming, mountain climbing, skiing, football." The council chamber erupted in shocked whispers. "You climb mountains for enjoyment?" Mira asked, her 4 hands trembling slightly. "Some people run 42 kilometers just to see if they can," Lisa added. An alien scientist approached Paul. "I am Dr. Xen. Your species fascinates me. Would you permit biological scans?" Paul nodded. "Of course." The scans revealed details that made Dr. Xen step back in surprise. "Your bone density is remarkable. Your muscle fibers can repair micro-tears. Your lungs can function in lower oxygen environments than most species." "That's just normal for us," Paul explained. Later, as the humans were shown to their quarters, Lisa pulled John aside. "Have you noticed something about this station? About all their technology?" John nodded. "Everything is designed for comfort, not durability. I haven't seen a single backup system." "These species evolved without many threats," Lisa said quietly. "They never needed to prepare for the worst." That evening, during a formal dinner, John noticed the aliens ate only soft, mild foods. When Sam bit into a spicy dish prepared especially for the humans, nearby aliens watched in horror. "How can you eat something that causes pain?" one asked. Sam shrugged. "It's not really pain. It's just interesting." Dr. Xen approached John after dinner. "Captain, I've been studying your species. The conditions of Earth have made you uniquely resilient. You can survive injuries that would kill most council species. You can adapt to almost any environment." "I never thought of it that way," John replied. "There's more," Dr. Xen said, his voice dropping. "We've received reports of attacks on our outer colonies. The attackers are called the Krell. They also come from what you would call a death world." "Why are you telling me this?" John asked. "Because," Dr. Xen said gravely, The council species have never faced such a threat. We don't know how to fight. But you humans, you understand survival in ways we never could." John looked around at the peaceful aliens enjoying their evening. Soon, he realized, they might need Earth's help in ways they never expected. The emergency meeting was called just 3 days after the humans arrived at Unity Station. Captain John Miller and his team sat at a large round table with the council members. The room was tense. "The Krell have attacked another colony," Council Leader Mira announced, her four hands moving nervously. 37 Valdari dead, hundreds injured. The colony is lost. Images appeared on the large screen. John studied them carefully. The destruction was total, buildings burned, fields ruined. "What exactly are these Krell?" John asked. Dr. Xen brought up a hologram of a tall, reptilian creature. It stood on 2 legs with powerful muscles visible under scaled skin. Sharp claws extended from its 4-fingered hands, and a ridge of spines ran down its back. The Krell evolved on Draconis, a high-gravity planet with active volcanoes and acidic swamps. Dr. Xen explained. "Class 14 Deathworld, even more extreme than Earth." "How many ships do they have?" Frank asked. "At least 30 warships that we know of," Quinn replied. "But our information is limited. They attack quickly and leave little behind." "And the Council's defense force?" Lisa asked. Mira looked down. "We have patrol ships, but they're not built for war. Most Council species focused on cooperation, not conflict. We haven't fought a real war in over 800 years." John exchanged glances with his team. The situation was worse than they thought. "We need to know more about these Krell," John said. "I propose taking the Horizon to investigate the most recent attack site." "That would be extremely dangerous," Quinn warned. "We're used to danger," John replied simply. The council discussed among themselves. Their voices hushed. Finally, Mira spoke. "We accept your offer, Captain Miller. The council will provide all information we have on the Krell. But please understand, we cannot risk open war. Our people are not built for it." Back on the Horizon, John gathered his crew for a briefing. "The Krell attacked this colony here." He pointed to a star map. "We'll arrive in about 48 hours. What do we know about their weapons?" Sam asked. "They use plasma-based weapons, similar to ours, but less focused. Their ships have thick armor but seem slower to maneuver," Lisa explained. "Dr. Xen is coming with us," John added. "He wants to study both the Krell and how we respond to them." Hall looked troubled. "Captain, something about this doesn't add up. The Krell have superior numbers and come from an even harsher world than Earth. Why are they only hitting small colonies? Why not attack the Council directly?" "Good question," John said. "Let's find out." 2 days later, the Horizon approached the destroyed colony on Valdari 7. The planet looked peaceful from orbit. Blue oceans, green landmasses. "Scan for any ships or life signs," John ordered. "Nothing in orbit," Kate reported. "But I'm picking up faint signals from the surface. Could be survivors. Or a trap," Frank suggested. John nodded. "We need to check either way. Prepare a landing team." As they prepared to descend to the surface, Dr. Xen watched the humans with fascination. They checked weapons methodically, discussed contingency plans, and packed medical supplies. "You prepare for the worst every time, don't you?" he asked. "It's how we survived on Earth," Frank explained. "Hope for the best, prepare for the worst." "The Council species never developed that mindset," Dr. Xen said sadly. "We evolved in safer environments. We never needed to constantly look over our shoulders." The shuttle launched toward the surface. Through the viewport, they saw the burning colony come into view. Most buildings were still smoking. "Sensors picking up movement," Lisa warned. "South side of the colony." John tensed. "Krell." "No," Lisa said, her voice surprised. "It's a Valdari distress beacon." "There are survivors," Dr. Xen said, hope filling his voice. John felt uneasy. Be ready for anything. If there are survivors, the Krell might come back for them. The shuttle landed just outside the colony. As they stepped onto the planet's surface, a distant roar echoed across the ruined landscape. What was that? Dr. Xen asked, suddenly afraid. Frank checked his weapon. I think we're about to meet our first Krell. Frank raised his weapon as the team moved forward. The colony was silent except for the crackling of small fires and the distant roar they had heard earlier. Stay alert, John whispered. Lisa, Frank, take point. Dr. Xen, stay between Paul and me. They moved through the ruins of what once had been a peaceful settlement. Buildings were torn apart, some still smoking. The ground was scorched in several places. The beacon is coming from that building, Lisa said, pointing to a structure that was mostly intact. As they approached, a terrified face peeked out from a window and then quickly disappeared. Survivors, Dr. Xen said with relief. Frank moved to the door, weapon ready. Hello. We're from the U.S. Horizon, here to help. The door slowly opened. Inside were 12 Valdari, huddled together. They looked thin and scared. The Krell, one of them asked weakly. No sign of them yet, John replied. But we need to move quickly. Our shuttle is nearby. Dr. Xen spoke to the survivors in their language. They seemed to relax a little. They say the Krell attacked 3 days ago. Dr. Xen translated. Most of the colony was killed. These few hid in an underground storage room. One of the survivors, a female Valdari, stepped forward. I am Lyra, Colony Communications Officer. The Krell ships came without warning. Their soldiers landed and they hunted us. For sport. John's face darkened. Hunted. Lyra nodded sadly. They could have killed everyone quickly from orbit, but they chose to come down and chase us. They called it worthy prey, though we offered no challenge. That explains the pattern, Paul said quietly to John. They're not just conquering. They're hunting. Captain, Kate's voice came through the comm. We're picking up a ship entering the atmosphere. It matches Krell design. They're coming back, Frank said, checking his weapon. John made a quick decision. Lisa, get these people to the shuttle. Frank, Sam with me. We'll create a diversion. Paul, protect Dr. Xen. I'm staying with you, Dr. Xen said firmly. I need to observe the Krell. John wanted to argue, but there was no time. Stay behind us, then. They split into 2 groups. Lisa led the survivors toward the shuttle, while John's team moved toward the landing site of the Krell ship. There, Sam pointed. A sleek, predatory-looking vessel was landing in what once was the colony's central plaza. Its dark metal hull gleamed in the sunlight. 3 targets exiting the ship, Frank reported, looking through his scope. The Krell were even more intimidating in person. They stood 7 feet tall, with powerful bodies covered in thick scales. Their yellow eyes scanned the area as they sniffed the air. Each carried what looked like advanced weapons. They can smell us, Dr. Xen whispered. The Krell have highly developed senses. One of the Krell turned in their direction and made a clicking sound. The others responded, and they began moving toward the humans' position. They know we're here, John said. Plan changes. We need to draw them away from Lisa's group. Frank nodded. I'll circle around, create a distraction. Be careful, John warned. Frank moved quickly through the ruins. Moments later, an explosion rocked a building on the far side of the settlement. The Krell immediately turned toward the sound. Now, John ordered. Sam fired, hitting one of the Krell in the shoulder. The creature roared but didn't fall. Instead, it charged toward them with surprising speed. Move, John shouted. They ran, leading the Krell away from the escape route. Dr. Xen struggled to keep up, his species not built for running. How are they so fast? Sam panted as they ducked into a building. Deathworld evolution, Dr. Xen gasped. Like you humans. The wall behind them exploded as a Krell blasted it with its weapon. John pushed Dr. Xen down as debris flew everywhere. Captain Miller. Lisa's voice came through the comm. We've reached the shuttle, but more Krell are landing. John looked at his team, then at the advancing Krell hunters. For the first time, humans were facing something that evolved in an environment even more deadly than Earth. Let's show them what Deathworlders can do, John said. The Krell warrior smashed through the doorway, its yellow eyes fixed on John. Sam fired 3 shots, but they only slowed the creature. Their scales are like armor, Sam shouted. John grabbed a metal pipe from the rubble and swung it hard at the Krell's knee. The creature roared in pain and stumbled. Go for the joints, John called out. They're vulnerable there. Frank appeared from behind a wall and fired at another Krell's neck. The shot connected, and the alien fell. Captain, Lisa's voice came through the comm. We're at the shuttle, but we're pinned down by Krell fire. Hold position, John ordered. We're coming to you. Dr. Xen studied the fallen Krell with fascination. Amazing adaptations. The scales can deflect energy weapons. The muscle density is incredible. Admire them later, John said, pulling Dr. Xen up. We need to move. They ran through the ruins toward the shuttle landing site. 2 more Krell spotted them and gave chase. The aliens moved with surprising speed and agility for their size. They're faster than us, Sam panted. But we have more endurance, John replied. Keep moving. It was true. After several minutes of chase, the Krell began to slow. Their massive muscles needed more rest than human ones. They evolved for short bursts of power, Dr. Xen observed, not long-distance running like humans. They reached a ridge overlooking the shuttle. Lisa and the survivors were trapped behind some rocks, with 3 Krell firing at them from different positions. We need a plan, Frank said. John looked around and noticed a fuel container near one of the Krell. Sam, can you hit that tank? Sam nodded and took careful aim. The shot hit perfectly, and the container exploded. The nearest Krell was thrown to the ground, temporarily stunned. Frank, take Dr. Xen and circle left. Sam and I will go right. We'll catch them in crossfire. The plan worked. Frank created a distraction while John and Sam took down 1 Krell. Dr. Xen surprised everyone by using a small device that emitted a high-pitched sound, causing another Krell to drop its weapon and cover its ears. Sound sensitivity, Dr. Xen explained with a small smile. I noticed they communicated with clicks and whistles. With the path cleared, Lisa led the Valderi survivors to the shuttle. Everyone boarded quickly. More Krell ships incoming, Kate warned through the comm. You have 3 minutes before they're on top of you. The shuttle lifted off as Krell warriors emerged from the ruins, firing up at them. Several shots hit the shuttle, but it continued to climb. Damage report, John called out. Engine 2 is damaged, Lisa reported. We're losing power. Can we reach the horizon? John asked. Maybe, but it'll be close. The shuttle broke atmosphere with the Krell ships in pursuit. The U.S. horizon appeared ahead, already moving to intercept. Horizon to shuttle, Kate's voice came through. We see your pursuers. Weapons hot. The horizon fired at the lead Krell ship, forcing it to veer off. The shuttle limped into the landing bay, just as the second engine failed. Once safely aboard, John ordered an immediate departure. The horizon jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the Krell behind. In the medical bay, Dr. Xen examined the survivors while recording his observations about both humans and Krell. You fought well, he said to John. Most council species would have surrendered or been killed. We did what we had to do, John replied. Council leader Mira's face appeared on the screen. Captain Miller, we've received your report. The council is disturbed by these developments. The Krell are targeting colonies systematically, John explained. They're testing defenses, looking for worthy opponents. We need your help, Mira admitted, her 4 hands clasped together. The council has voted. We wish to form an official alliance with Earth and any other Deathworld species you can contact. Other Deathworlders? Lisa asked. Mira nodded. Dr. Xen has identified two other species that might help: the Jorda from a high radiation world, and the Nyx who evolved in perpetual darkness. Will you help us contact them? John looked at his team, who nodded. We'll help, he said. But the Council needs to understand something. This isn't just about fighting. You need to learn to survive. 1 month later, Unity Station looked very different. The once peaceful hub of the Galactic Council was now a center of military preparation. Humans worked alongside aliens from various worlds, teaching them combat skills and survival tactics. John watched from a viewing platform as Lisa trained a group of Valderi in basic combat moves. The aliens were awkward at first, their bodies not used to fighting, but they were learning. They're improving, Sam said as he joined John. Slowly, John agreed. But it's not just about fighting. It's about thinking differently. In another area, Frank was teaching Valderi engineers how to make emergency shelters from limited materials. Paul worked with Dr. Xen to develop weapons that could penetrate Krell scales. The door opened, and Council Leader Mira entered with 2 new aliens John had never seen before. Captain Miller, Mira said, "Meet our new allies." The first alien had thick, reddish skin that seemed to glow faintly. He stood tall and thin, with 4 eyes that blinked independently. "I am Commander Rek of the Jorda," he said. His voice was deep and raspy. "My world orbits a radiation-heavy star. We evolved to absorb energy that would kill most species." The second alien was shorter, with completely black skin and huge, silver eyes. No visible nose, just small breathing slits. "Vex of the Nyx," she introduced herself. "We come from a moon world of eternal night. We see in darkness and move without sound." John shook hands with both, careful to follow the cultural protocols he had been taught. "Earth is grateful for your help," he said. "The Krell threat concerns us all." "The Krell attacked our outpost last cycle," Rex said grimly. "They are formidable, but not invincible. Their hearing is sensitive to certain frequencies that don't bother Jorda. And they cannot see in complete darkness," Vex added. "The Nyx can." John nodded. Each Death World created different advantages. Their meeting was interrupted by an urgent alert. Kate's voice came over the station comm. "Captain, long-range sensors have detected a large Krell fleet, at least 30 ships, headed directly for the Valderi home system." Mira's 4 hands trembled. "Their home planet has 5 billion people. If the Krell attack, how long do we have?" John asked. 3 days at their current speed," Kate replied. John turned to Rek and Vex. "How many ships can your people provide?" 5 Jorda vessels, armed with radiation weapons," Rex said. 7 Nyx stealth ships," Vex answered. "Small but undetectable." "Earth has sent 10 more ships," John added. "They'll arrive tomorrow." Mira looked desperate. "The Council has 20 patrol ships, but they're not warships." "Then we'll make them warships," Sam said confidently. "We can modify them with the weapons we've developed." The next 2 days were a blur of activity. Sam and the engineers worked nonstop to upgrade the Council ships. Lisa and Frank continued training alien crews in combat tactics. Paul and Dr. Xen finalized their research on Krell vulnerabilities. On the 3rd day, the combined fleet gathered near the Valderi home planet. 22 human ships, including the Horizon, 12 modified Council vessels, 5 Jorda radiation cruisers, and 7 Nyx stealth ships. Against them, 30 Krell warships approached, led by a massive command vessel. "All ships reporting ready, Captain," Kate said from her station on the Horizon's bridge. John studied the tactical display. The Krell had numbers and raw power, but his fleet had diversity. Different technologies and abilities from 4 Deathworld species. "The Krell command ship is hailing us," Kate announced. "On screen," John ordered. The face that appeared was Nightmare Fuel, a Krell with scars across its scaled face and teeth filed to sharp points. A golden crest ran from its head down its back. "I am Supreme Hunter Vrax of the Krell Dominion. The alien growled in a surprisingly smooth voice. "You stand before the greatest hunters in the galaxy. Surrender the Valdari world, and we may allow you to live as our prey." John stood tall. "This is Captain John Miller, representing the Galactic Defense Alliance. We will not surrender." Vrax's yellow eyes narrowed. "You are not Valdari. What species dares to challenge the Krell?" "We are humans, from Earth." For the first time, Vrax showed surprise. "Another Deathworld species. Interesting. Perhaps you will provide worthier sport than these soft-skinned Valdari." "You'll find we're not easy prey," John replied calmly. Vrax laughed, a chilling sound. "Good. The hunt begins." The screen went dark as the Krell fleet accelerated toward them. "All ships," John commanded, "execute Battle Plan Alpha. Let's show them what Deathworlders working together can do." Space lit up with weapons fire as the battle began. The Krell ships moved in a tight formation, focusing their fire on the human vessels. "They recognize us as the primary threat," Lisa observed on the Horizon's bridge. John nodded. "As planned. Nyx ships, begin your attack." The 7 Nyx ships had been waiting, invisible to sensors. They suddenly appeared behind the Krell fleet and launched attacks on the engines of 3 enemy ships. Before the Krell could respond, the Nyx ships vanished again. "Jorda Squadron, your turn," John commanded. The 5 Jorda vessels moved forward, absorbing enemy fire without damage. They released bursts of radiation that penetrated Krell shields, causing systems failures. For 30 minutes, the battle continued with each allied species using their unique advantages. The humans showed tactical flexibility, changing plans quickly when needed. The Jorda absorbed damage that would destroy other ships. The Nyx struck from hiding, then disappeared. But the Krell adapted quickly. They adjusted their shields against the radiation and started firing randomly into empty space, occasionally hitting a cloaked Nyx ship. "Captain, we've lost 2 Council ships and 1 Nyx vessel," Kate reported. "The Krell are pressing toward the planet." John studied the tactical display. "They're focusing too much on us. Where's Vrax's command ship?" "Here," Lisa pointed to a large vessel hanging back from the main battle. "It's not engaging directly." John smiled slightly. "Hunters don't like to become the hunted." "New plan. All human ships, focus fire on the Krell front line. Make it look like we're desperate." The human fleet moved forward aggressively, taking heavy fire, but dealing significant damage to the Krell front ships. "Now, pull back," John ordered. "Make it look like a retreat." As the human ships appeared to flee, several Krell vessels broke formation to pursue, sensing victory. "Jorda and Council ships, hold the line," John commanded. "Next squadron, you know your target." 3 Nyx ships slipped past the battle unseen. They approached Vrax's command ship from different angles. On the horizon, damage reports were coming in from all decks. "Hull breach on Deck 4, Sam reported. "Emergency force fields holding. Weapons at 60%, Frank added. A massive explosion rocked the ship, throwing everyone off balance. Lights flickered and alarms blared. "Direct hit to our main engine," Lisa called out. "We're losing power." "Switch to auxiliary power," John ordered. "Keep weapons online." The ship groaned as systems failed. More explosions followed. "We need to evacuate," Kate urged. "The core is becoming unstable." John made the hard decision. "All hands, abandon ship, get to the escape pods." As the crew rushed to evacuate, John stayed on the bridge with Lisa to coordinate the retreat. "The Nyx ships are in position," Lisa reported. "They're attacking Vrax's command vessel." The view screen showed the massive Krell ship under attack from multiple directions. Its shields flickered but held. "It's not enough," John said grimly. "They need more firepower." Lisa looked at him, suddenly understanding. "John, no. The Horizon's core is going to blow anyway," he said calmly. "We can use that." He took manual control of the dying ship and aimed it directly at Vrax's command vessel. "Get to an escape pod," he told Lisa. "That's an order." "Not without you," she insisted. Another explosion rocked the bridge. Part of the ceiling collapsed, trapping Lisa's leg under debris. John rushed to her side and freed her, carrying her toward the last escape pod. "What about you?" she asked, seeing his plan. "I need to make sure the ship stays on course," he replied. "Someone has to pilot it manually through their defenses." Lisa knew arguing was pointless. "You better make it out too." John helped her into the pod and launched it. Then he returned to the bridge and took the controls. The Horizon accelerated toward Vrax's ship, taking heavy fire but staying on course. John adjusted the failing shields to protect the most critical areas. "Horizon to all ships," he broadcast. "Clear the area around the Krell command vessel." The Allied ships pulled back, understanding his plan. On his tactical display, John saw Lisa's escape pod moving away safely. He smiled briefly, then focused on his target. Vrax's ship grew larger in the view screen. Its weapons pounded the horizon relentlessly. Systems failed one by one. The ship was falling apart around him. With the last functioning thrusters, John made a final course correction. The distance closed rapidly. "For Earth," he whispered. "For all Deathworlders." The horizon smashed into the side of Vrax's command ship just as its core went critical. A blinding explosion erupted, engulfing both vessels. Throughout the battlefield, everyone watched in awe as the explosion tore the Krell command ship apart. Without leadership, the Krell fleet fell into disarray. Some ships continued fighting while others began to retreat. In her escape pod, Lisa watched the explosion with tears in her eyes. Her scanner showed no life signs where the horizon had been. "He did it," she whispered. "But at what cost?" 2 weeks after the battle, Unity Station hosted a ceremony to honor the fallen. Council leader Mira stood before representatives of all allied species. Lisa, now acting captain of the Earth forces, stood beside her with the surviving human crew. "Today we remember those who gave their lives to protect us all," Mira said. "Especially Captain John Miller, whose sacrifice turned the tide of battle." Lisa accepted a medal on John's behalf, her face showing the grief she still felt. After the ceremony, Dr. Xen approached her. "The Krell fleet has fully retreated from Council space. Our long-range sensors show them returning to their own territory." "They'll be back," Lisa said. "Hunters don't give up after one failed hunt." "But we'll be ready," Sam added. "The Council species are learning quickly." In the month since the battle, much had changed. The once peaceful Council races had begun training programs based on human, Jorda, and Nyx methods. New ships were being built with combined technologies from all 4 Deathworld species. "There's something else," Dr. Xen said hesitantly. "We captured 3 Krell, including Supreme Hunter Vrax." Lisa's eyes widened. "Vrax survived." "How?" "Escape pod, like many of us," Dr. Xen explained. "He's being held in a special cell. He's asking to speak with a human." Lisa followed Dr. Xen to the detention area. Inside a reinforced chamber sat the Krell leader. His scales were damaged, and one arm was missing below the elbow, but his yellow eyes still burned with intensity. "So, the prey visits the hunter," Vrax said when he saw Lisa. "Brave." "The prey defeated the hunter," Lisa replied coldly. Vrax made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Yes, that is why I wished to speak with you. You humans, you are not like the soft ones of the Council. Why did you attack them?" Lisa asked. "We Krell need challenge. Our world made us strong, but the galaxy was filled with weakness." Vrax leaned forward. "Until we found you." "You killed innocent people for sport," Lisa said angrily. "Yes, that was our way." Vrax studied her. "But now we have found worthy opponents. This changes things for the Krell." Before Lisa could respond, an urgent call came through her comm. "Acting Captain Daniels, please report to Medical Bay immediately." When Lisa arrived at the Medical Bay, she found Frank and Paul waiting outside a room, their faces showing disbelief. "What's going on?" she asked. It's John," Frank said. "They found him." Lisa pushed past them into the room. On a bed, connected to various machines, lay John Miller. His body was badly burned, and medical devices were helping him breathe, but he was alive. "We received a distress signal from an uncharted sector," the doctor explained. "A Nex scout ship found him floating in a damaged escape pod. He must have ejected just before impact." "How?" Lisa whispered, taking John's hand gently. "He's too stubborn to die," Frank said with a smile. "Classic Deathworlder." John's eyes fluttered open. He tried to speak, but couldn't through the breathing apparatus. "Don't try to talk," Lisa told him. "You're safe now." 3 days later, John was recovered enough to attend a special council meeting from his wheelchair. Representatives from all allied species were present, including the Krell. Vrax had agreed to a truce. "The Krell respect strength," he explained. "Humans have earned our respect." "Not just humans," John said, his voice still weak. "All Deathworlders, and all Council species who fought beside us." Council leader Mira stepped forward. "Today marks a new beginning for galactic civilization. We propose a new alliance, one that recognizes the strengths of all worlds, the determination of Deathworlders, and the cooperation of Council species." One by one, representatives from each world came forward to sign the new treaty. Human and Valdari, Jorda and Nyx, and finally, even the Krell. "I never thought I'd see this day," Dr. Xen said, watching the ceremony. "Different evolutionary paths coming together. That's the greatest strength of all," John replied. "Adapting and learning from each other." As the ceremony concluded, Lissa looked out the viewport at the stars. New ships were being built in the docks, crews of mixed species training together. The galaxy had changed forever. "You know what I realized?" she said to John. "Every world is a death world in its own way. We just found different solutions to survive." John nodded. "And now we can share those solutions." "What happens next?" Dr. Xen asked. John smiled. "We keep exploring. There are more worlds out there, more species to meet." He looked at the assembled representatives of 100 different worlds. "And together, we'll be ready for whatever we find."